Minsay isang bansang nakipaglaban, nag-alay ng kanyang mga anak, hangad ang magandang kinabukasan, tinatamasa ng lahat.
Waters are fast-moving.
Unlike other big rallies,
A bit earlier at about 7 a.m., a group from the Coast Guard.
Welcome to #PHVote 2013.
Today on Rappler.
Sa pag-usad ng kasaysayan, ipinagtatanggol at patuloy nating nakakamit ang mga adikain ng ating mga ninuno.
On Independence Day, President Aquino says in the past it was outrage against the colonizers. Today, it's outrage against corruption. Jinggoy Estrada's lawyer says the prosecution cannot prove the senator got 183 million pesos in kickbacks. And actress Angelina Jolie urges governments to move from condemnation to action to stop rape in war. Hello, I'm Ai Makareeg. Welcome to Rappler, your social news network. President Benigno Aquino breaks tradition Thursday as he flies to Naga City to commemorate Philippine Independence Day. In his speech, Aquino compares the anger of oppressed Filipinos during Spanish rule with today's public fear over the misuse of government funds. Aquino says lessons from the past will ensure justice as the nation is embroiled in the biggest corruption scandal in recent history. He adds it is important to reflect on our history, especially now that we are treading the path towards reform and justice. Senators Juan Ponce Enrile, Jinggoy Estrada, and Bong Revilla face plunder charges for allegedly conniving to pocket development funds in a scam orchestrated by Janet Lim Napoles. Aquino says news about the scam first surfaced in early 2013, but the charges were only filed last week because the government followed due process. The three senators maintain their innocence and accuse the administration of selective justice. In Naga City, the president commemorates the 15 Martires, the 15 martyrs from Bicol whose deaths contributed to the freedom of the province Camarines Sur from colonizers.
Sa pag-usad ng kasaysayan, ipinagtatanggol at patuloy nating nakakamit ang mga adikain ng ating mga ninuno. Patuloy na lumitaw ang mga bayani na magtataguyod ng iba't ibang anyo ng kalayaan sa maraming bahagi ng bansa. Ang mga marinong nakaistasyon sa Ayungin, si Jesse Robredo dito sa Naga, ang milyong-milyong Pilipinong nagtipon sa EDSA.
Aquino reminds Filipinos to vote wisely in 2016 when he steps down from office, quote, in order to ensure what our ancestors have sacrificed will not be wasted. Aquino also takes a jab at those reported to be aspiring for higher office in 2016.
Hindi natin kailangan na magaling bumigkas ng script, mahusay sumayaw o kaya magaling kumanta. Pananagutan nating mag-iwan ng mas makatarungan at mas maunlad na Pilipinas kaysa sa ating pong dinatnan.
Aquino asks the public to use as inspiration the Filipino heroes who fought for independence over a century ago. He says by doing so, they're carving the administration's straight and narrow path. For social media posts of the day, it's the Philippines' 116th Independence Day, and some Filipinos online commemorate it by tweeting alternate scenarios to events in history. With the hashtag RP612FIC, netizens exercise their imagination. Here are some of their tweets. Andre Salvatierra or Atshin Kaide says, in a sudden realization in the midst of successive defeats, Andres Bonifacio yells, I said nobody should check in at Foursquare. Mabeth Costales says, I demand trial by combat, shouted Bonifacio, but not one Katipunero stepped up to be his champion. And AJ Elicanio makes this quote of Tandang Sora, I have never yelled at a girl like this during the first and only episode of the Katipunan's Next Stop Rebel. Graft is one thing, but plunder is another. In a TV interview Thursday, Senator Jinggoy Estrada's lawyer, Alexis Abastilla, says the prosecution cannot prove her client got 183 million pesos in pork barrel kickbacks. She adds the ombudsman came up with the amount by mere computation based on the testimony of principal whistleblower Ben-Hur Louis. Abastilla says the computation is not enough to prove plunder, a non-bailable crime. Echoing Estrada's privileged speech last Wednesday, Abastilla says the amounts in Louis' ledger do not reach 50 million pesos, the threshold for plunder. The lawyer says Estrada might have unknowingly chosen Janet Napoles' fake NGOs as recipients of his pork barrel funds. Commission on Audit Chair Grace Pulido-Tan earlier said her agency found that Estrada did not just endorse the NGOs, but also guaranteed their legitimacy. Filipinos protest outside the Chinese consulate Thursday to slam China for what they call the fault in your maps on the South China Sea. Protesters carry posters bearing the likeness of promo materials from the novel-turned-blockbuster movie The Fault in Our Stars. Up to 140 of them gather in front of China's consulate in Makati to protest Beijing's aggression in the disputed waters. Akbayan Youth Chair Rafaela David says her group thought of the poster to denounce the faulty map of China covering the South China Sea. China's modern maps include the much-criticized 9-dash line, a demarcation mark it uses to claim virtually the entire South China Sea. The Philippines claims parts of these waters as the West Philippine Sea. It is pursuing a historic case before a United Nations tribunal challenging China's vast claims. Ironically, in a recent lecture, Philippine Supreme Court Justice Antonio Carpio used ancient Chinese maps, China's favorite pieces of evidence, to debunk these territorial claims. The ancient maps show a much smaller Chinese territory that excludes the West Philippine Sea. The Philippines finds an ally in Vietnam in challenging China's claims over the South China Sea. Tensions between Vietnam and China flare after Beijing sent an oil rig into disputed waters. Vietnamese ambassador to the Philippines, Truong Tru Duong, says Beijing's recent acts also threaten the Philippines because the Asian superpower has now moved from words to actions.
The very first act that China did to us. But in the end, this is a very, very dangerous act, because this, well, maybe after this, China may do the same to other countries, including the Philippines.
Duong also says China wants to realize its dream of a 9-dash line. He says the line is a newly born idea that has been rejected by almost all countries.
This has been carefully considered, carefully calculated, and it's a very, very serious act for China to realize its dream of the 9-dash line. It's different from other acts before. Those before the previous acts were just claiming some islands and things like that. But here, it is claiming the whole South China Sea.
As the Philippines enters the rainy season, the country's disaster response agency aims to better prepare for typhoons and floods by turning scientific jargon into practical steps. Days before Super Typhoon Yolanda or Haiyan killed thousands in November 2013, local officials were warned about its devastating impact. But not everyone understood the warnings. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, says its goal is to take scientific information and to create a template for how various local government units, or LGUs, should respond to specific situations. NDRRMC Chief Undersecretary Alexander Pama says the agency aims to build on and expand the capacities and resources of LGUs. Delegates from over 100 countries are in London for the 4-day Global Summit to End Sexual Violence and Conflict. UN Special Envoy Angelina Jolie and British Foreign Secretary William Hague co-chair the event, which aims to raise awareness and discuss ways to end rape in war. Jolie urges governments all over the world to move from condemnation to action in stopping what she calls a preventable crime. The Hollywood actress says the summit is an avenue for people to unite behind the issue.
I am hopeful that we can unite on this issue, and I thank all the governments that have taken a stand by supporting our declaration and coming to London. This summit is a model for a new way of working together. And this single issue for us is now a center point. It is just the beginning. There are many crimes, abuses in all forms that we must confront together. But let us begin here, and let us expand from here.
Let's now look at Rappler's Wrap for today, a list of the 10 most important events around the world you shouldn't miss. At number 7, Google announces plans to buy the satellite group Skybox Imaging for $500 million in a move to improve mapping and other services using geospatial data. Skybox says the company's goal is to revolutionize access to information about the changes happening across the surface of the Earth. Google says the satellites will keep its maps accurate with up-to-date imagery. At number 8, ground staff at Rio de Janeiro's 3 airports plan to stage a 24-hour partial strike Thursday, the day Brazil hosts the opening match of the World Cup. The workers promise to maintain 80% service, but the strike raises fears of delays as thousands of football fans arrive for the opening match. In London, the Sunday Times reports millions of dollars in bribes were paid to help Qatar secure hosting rights for the 2022 World Cup. This prompts a former chairman of England's Football Association to say football governing body FIFA acts like a mafia family. He adds FIFA has a, quote, decades-long tradition of bribes, bungs, and corruption. And at number 10, private rent-a-car apps like Uber stir unrest among traditional taxi drivers in Europe. Taxi drivers brought parts of London, Paris, Berlin, and other European cities at a standstill Wednesday as they protested the new apps which shook the industry. Old-time cab drivers say Uber operates without a license in the cities where they're accessed, unlike traditional cab drivers who go through training and screening. Uber says the drivers belong to the dark ages. For the full top 10, visit Rappler.com's The Wrap. Every story on Rappler has a mood meter which gives you 8 emotions to choose from. Click how you feel and your vote comes down to the mood navigator in the middle of the front page, which crowdsources the mood of the day. It also gives you the top 10 stories that got the most clicks. In today's mood navigator, almost all of the stories that affected our readers the most are related to the privileged speeches of Senators Bong Revilla and Jinggoy Estrada. Yesterday's privileged speech, Jinggoy Estrada, I am no thief, has 52% of readers feeling angry, 27% annoyed. But there are also stories on the reactions to those speeches. Senate amused, Palace angry at Revilla's speech, 51% amused, 35% happy. And still, the biggest story is about the speech/music video of Senator Revilla. Social media reacts to a singing Bong Revilla, 49% amused, 45% happy. All contributing to the mood of the day. Today, most people are amused. That's Rappler's Newscast for today, the Philippine Independence Day, Thursday, June 12, 2014. Visit Rappler.com and watch our newscast Monday to Friday. Tell us how you feel on our mood meter and help us crowdsource the mood of the day. I'm Ai Makaraig and as you say at Rappler, tomorrow begins today.